Welcome back to my YouTube channel, guys. If you're new to my channel and you do not know who I am, my name is Gade Philip, or Gade for short. Make sure you guys like, comment and subscribe to the ting. Before we get into this video, I want to let you guys know about my hair business, HairBayUK.com. I have been selling pre-plucked and styled ready-to-wear wigs for the past 2 years. One thing that I've noticed about my customers, there's an urgency when it comes to hair. So I have a huge inventory of stock in which anyone can buy hair and receive it next day delivery or in a matter of days. If you're interested in purchasing any of my wigs, I will leave the information in the description box below. It's HairBayUK.com and the Instagram is HairBayUK. If you have any questions at all, just DM me and I can answer any questions. We are also doing drop-offs, so if you need the hair on the day, please do not hesitate to DM me and we can get that sorted for you. I genuinely want to know why this is still a topic. Why are we still talking about this? Because don't get me wrong, for Murad Merali, I can completely understand that something like this is never planned. You would never imagine such things being exposed about yourself, because I'm going to only assume that this has put a halt in his career and his goals and the direction that he was heading in. And I feel like what has happened in the last 24 hours is just us dragging out a topic that I wouldn't say we need to move on from, but we don't need to associate with. Murad Merali was featured on a podcast by Chucky. He basically spoke about his life and leading up to the events of what happened a few months ago. Murad Merali expressed that growing up, he was surrounded by a lot of African, Black people of colour, and that had a big influence on who he was as a person. He also said that his audience on YouTube were Black, brown, Asian. For any creator, you can see who your audience is, their age demographic, and what their interests are in your analytics on your YouTube channel. He said that in the beginning of his journey, he often spoke about American topics. Backchat came about, rappers, beef, all that type of stuff he did actually cover on his channel. And for me, I feel like, obviously looking at that, it's a fresh face, it's somebody that's not of a Black background and seems to be so interested or hyper-focused on these topics. It's interesting to watch. I can't lie. He then said he felt the need to speak about the racial bias in our community. In the past, he also touched on the racism between Black people and Arab, Asian people. And that was encouraged by some of the things that he went through in his past. Fast forward onto that, he spoke about the events of the night that all of these disgusting videos came out. And because he's a very sensitive and already suicidal person, his friends came to check on him to see if he was okay. And he did panic and decided to do his initial addressing things video. He was headed to Saudi Arabia that following week, and he said if he had gone while this incident was happening, it would have been a death sentence. He would have been in danger. His life would have been threatened. There also had been several threats towards him where people had threatened in the past to expose him about all of these things because they wanted him back as a client. But instead of him addressing it, he decided that he wanted to move on and brush things under the rug, because coming out or being exposed to your family, you'd basically be written off. And he comes from a religious background, so it's just forbidden. It's not something that is spoken about. It's not something that is addressed. It's swept underneath the rug, and that's what he did and just kept living his life. And I feel like it creeped up on him. It creeped up on him. We will never know who it was behind that Twitter account that released those videos. We will never know why they done it. We will never, ever know. But it was done, and personally, I feel like everything happens for a reason. everything happens for a reason. I think back to things that I've done, and I think everything genuinely happens for a reason. When he saw all of those videos, he said he completely didn't remember some of the events and how graphic they were. And looking back on it, it was not the best thing that he did, but he was desperate for money. He was desperate to move and disassociate himself from the situation that he was in. He said that he was homeless and living on the streets, living out of bags and suitcases, and he really wanted to change his life. And he felt like this was all he could do. And these race play incidents weren't regular. They were far and few in between. And obviously it was expressed that it shouldn't have happened anyway, but he reassured Chuckie that this didn't happen all the time, but there were clients that would come and then throw that suggestion on him. And he also said that once he was with a client and he suggested that he did not want to do what the client was asking, and the client attacked him and knocked him out on the floor. Chuckie asked, if I was to ask you, do you have racist views towards black people? Murad said no, absolutely not. How do you get to a place where you are so privately comfortable? He said race play was far and few in between, said he didn't want to do it and had been abused, but sometimes he did engage because of the money and would be choked or hit if he didn't. He struggles saying no. He struggles with any confrontation or conflict, and he assured the viewers that this is not who he is. He said none of his friends left him. None of his friends doubted him. I think his friends always knew something was going on with him, but they didn't know what. So they just kind of just understood and sympathized with him. He said that he's not sorry that he's been caught, but in his religion, it is said that you deal with your sins privately. And he's always wanted to talk about it publicly, but he's been, what's that saying? Stuck in a hard place. Let's say stuck in a hard place where if he talks about it, he could be rejected from his community and not safe in regards to his religion and that kind of side of things. But then also he feels like if he did talk about it, he could help a lot of people, because he did have an output of people that are in the same predicament as him, where they feel like sex work is all that they can do and they do whatever they can to just survive. He believed that talking about it was a taboo and very difficult. He would never share who the person was that molested him, and he would never confront those issues on a public platform because he doesn't feel like he's not strong or mentally strong enough to revisit that aloud. He struggles with being transparent because of the ramifications. He was asked, how do you have a kink and then shame people online? And for me, I don't really feel like he gave a good answer in regards to that. I just feel like it's a bit narcissistic. It's a bit narcissistic when you can completely disassociate yourself from things that you do. And just because people don't know, it's how do you even feel good saying it? It's almost like acting. It's like you're acting. This is not real because you're actually doing it, but you're telling people online. Yeah, anyway. And then he said that there has been a slight awkwardness between him and his black friends, but none of them have left him. But sorry guys, my battery died on my other camera, so I'm using my second camera. But after this podcast was released, Ashley Louise, that does Talks with Ash and on the platform Clubhouse and Twitter Space, has responded by saying the black community need to get better at gatekeeping. Why do people of other cultures constantly get to redeem themselves on our platforms? Do you think we could get caught using the P word and then get invited on to 2 Pakistani podcasts to explain ourselves? And I totally agree. Murad pod. If Murad was a white man speaking to a white audience and those videos came out, he wouldn't have been on the pod. Murad's audience was predominantly black and Asian women. Some I respect. His audience and who he spoke to is a key factor in why this pod happened. Kink work and race play is a real thing. It really exists. So the questions are, can you take part in race play and not be racist? If so, The next question is, do you believe him? I questioned him to see what his truth was, purely because he was speaking to a Black and Asian audience. But as we are here though, this is a real question. Could someone pay you enough money to say racially problematic things to them in the bedroom when nobody is looking? 1 mil, 5 mil, 50? No, I would never. I hear you say, sure. Sidebar, I saw a few people say no Jewish person gave Kanye a platform. We are so forgiving. Have a nibble on this. Lex Friedman, Jewish, talks with Kanye. Why are we comparing Kanye? Kanye is a celebrity. Kanye is a celebrity with millions of followers. Please, like, oh. Anyway, do you know what? Do you know what I'm going to say? I personally feel like we need to give this a rest. This justification of Murad being on this platform is absolute bullshit, and nobody can tell me otherwise. Oh, I did it for the Black women, Asian women. There are so many other topics that I personally do not feel like predominantly male podcasts don't address. I never see Black men talking about colorism against Black women. I never see Black men talking about being fetishized by other races. Like, there's so many other ways that you can highlight racism and racial issues against the Black community, but doing it because it's Murad is just like, what? You're doing him a favor, in my opinion. Like, he has a platform already. He has the leverage already. He does not need to do this. He doesn't. Whoever wishes to watch is going to watch. The other day I went out, and obviously I have associates that are not on social media, and I've come to terms with the fact that there are some dark and twisted people that live in this world. There's no changing it. Even if you film them and put them on the internet, there's no changing some people's mentalities, moral compasses. There's no changing it. Common sense is so fundamental. Like, and I feel like when you have a platform, and when your platform is based on talking and having topics and discussions and debates, I think critical thinking needs to come into play. You cannot do race play and not associate that with racism. But the underlying factor of racism is stereotypes and being prejudiced, judgmental, hate crimes, like all those type of things. Like there's just no justifying it. Why are we still talking about it? It's so annoying. Why was the Wumi Bello interview not aired? I personally feel like it wasn't aired mainly because of her. I feel like she didn't want the backlash and the hate for that, so that's why it was removed. I don't think it had anything to do with him, but that was what was mentioned. But I just feel like we need to give this a rest. It's enough. It's actually enough. That was all for this video. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.